Happy 4th of July, everyone! Nothing more patriotic than talking about Japanese culture. That was a joke. F the 4th. Sanrio is most likely a name everyone knows by heart. Most known for being behind Cinnamon Roll, Pom Pom Purin, My Melody, and Kuromi, the oh-so family-friendly Agretsuko, and everyone's favorite. Well, and there's Hello Kitty too, I guess. I still remember ordering a DVD off Netflix without my parents knowing of that one cartoon where Hello Kitty is Cinderella and football was done for some reason. Yeah, there's definitely a reason I turned out this way. These characters have taken the world by storm, especially in their country of origin, Japan. Obviously, the Hello Kitty franchise is gonna be massive in where it came from, but still quite astonishing just how inescapable the adorable mouthless cat is. Safe to say, Sanrio is basically the Disney of Japan, just without the monopoly. And this includes the theme park business. Though the main focus of today are two major parks in particular that reside in the country of origin, Sanrio Puroland and Sanrio Harmonyland in Tamahiji respectively. Both places are considered havens for Sanrio fans alike, and are at the top of many people's lists when it comes to visiting Japan. But you might be surprised to learn that these parks are kinda considered to be failures. As much as Sanrio is a huge name, and while these parks seem to be doing much better on the outside, they've both had histories that are as shaky as my mental health. Today I want to explore the bizarre origins of Pure and Harmonyland, how they evolved, and why they failed in the first place. Keep in mind that there might be some details I could get wrong because not a lot of info is public about these parks and it's kinda made research a lot more complicated, plus in most areas I have to rely on Google's dog translator. So if I get anything wrong, I'll be sure to let you know in the pinned comment. Thanks, Japan. But first, do you want to help me pay rent? Or support my channel further? Well, now's your chance cause I have memberships. The membership plan is divided into 3 tiers. Tama Friends, starting at $2.99 per month, will get you cool looking emojis, behind the scenes content, and exclusive videos that include sneak peeks at upcoming releases, as well as early access to new uploads. Tama Kings, which is $4.99 a month, will give you all the previous perks and a special shout on screen. And finally, Tama Gods, starting at $9.99 a month, will again grant you all the previously mentioned perks, but with the addition of members only polls and exclusive chats for when I do live streams. Subscribe to a Miyachi membership today. If you're not broke. Please. 1983 saw the grand opening of Disney's first international park, Tokyo Disneyland, and was an instant hit right out of the gate, bringing in nearly 10 million visitors in its first year. Wanting to replicate its success, Shintaro Tsuji, founder of Sanrio, sought to create a theme park entirely based on Sanrio characters. The idea also came to mind when you watched Walt Disney's Fantasia, which served as an inspiration for the aesthetic. I think you know things are kinda f***ed when the best Fantasia representation in theme parks that isn't Fantasmic didn't come from Disney themselves. To do this, the company collaborated with the American entertainment designer firm Landmark Entertainment Group. These guys are a lot bigger than you know, because they are most known for collaborating with Universal Studios to help design attractions like The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, Terminator 2 3D, Jurassic Park The Ride, the original King Kong Encounter the Studio Tour, and the entire Islands of Adventure theme park. And by looking at the park itself, you can tell. Originally named Sanrio Communication World, then to Sanrio World, then to Sanrio Heart Park, and then to Sanrio Puroland, Sanrio Puroland is entirely indoors. Upon entering the 2-floor lobby and going past some of the shops, restaurants, and a cute-looking mural, you enter Pure Village and are greeted by the Wisdom Tree. The Wisdom Tree mostly serves as a walkthrough treehouse of some sorts, but it's also a stage for daily parades and even simple character shows. The park also had 5 theaters. Markin Theater hosted as typical of the live shows you can get. Discovery Theater had a pretty cool-looking audio animatronic show that was a musical history of human innovation, kinda like if Terminator was an 80s Epcot pavilion. The Dream Time Machine hosted a 4D show where some robot thing takes guests to see places in the world like the Grand Canyon and then Dracula's Castle. Fairyland features a nature set with animatronic critters and a talking tree, plus some live performers, but at the same time it was also a restaurant that served people while they watched the show. However, this concept was discontinued after 2 years as it converted to just being a theater. And then there was The Legend of Gol, an audio animatronic practical effects show with the storyline of a fantasy epic, housed in Japan's first ever 360-degree spinning theater. I get that this isn't considered groundbreaking by today's standards, but I find it interesting that Sanrio managed to do something like this before Disney and Universal could. Carousel of Progress and Universe of Energy aren't what I mean, by the way. And then we have, by technicality, the park's only ride, Pure Adventure. The ride took guests through the story of how 8 Puros, yes that's what they're called, came down to Earth and created Pure Village. It's about as typical as a boat dog ride can get, but it looked to have some really nice set design, neat looking animatronics for its time. I also really like how this serves as the backstory for the characters made for this park, which, speaking of that, you might notice that Puroland's early years mostly focused on original characters rather than its already iconic lineup. Sure, Hello Kitty and friends were still very present, but non-IP characters were much more focal to the park, especially the Puros. And yes, they all have names. Captain and Yum Yum and Twinkle too. Twilight, Melody, Tinker, and Tick-Tock-Oo. And one of them is named King Happy. And he is not Santa Claus. He looks exactly like him, but he is not Santa. I mean, the park opened around Christmas, so it's gotta be a coincidence, right? The idea of having original characters was actually pitched by Landmark, but faced drawbacks from the Sanrio team due to the lack of Hello Kitty, aka the biggest thing they've ever made. So basically, Kitty and her friends are there to remind people this is indeed a Sanrio park. After 2 years of construction and 2,500 workers, with the size of approximately 494,000 square feet and a cost of $680 million, making it, at the time, the most expensive theme park ever built, Sanrio Puroland officially opened its gates in Tama, Japan on December 7th, 1990, and was a failure. Sure, tickets sold out for the entirety of 1991 and the park reached 1 million visitors in 7 months, but problems were always starting to reach the surface right after opening. First off, the reservation system was difficult for many visitors to navigate. The reason they had it in place at all was due to the building's capacity being limited since it's only about the same size as Little Caesars Arena, so instead of just buying a ticket and going, you have to choose a day where you want to go far in advance after you buy a ticket. And if that date isn't available, tough shit. The whole system was way too complex for the Japanese to put up with, thus the trip to them wasn't worth it, especially for casual visitors. Trust me, us Americans can't even figure out these things either. There's also the matter of location. Puroland's home city, Tama, is on the western side of the Tokyo metropolis. Before, and even for a good while after the park opened, Tama was a town nobody cared about. Wait, Tama town. Oh my god! And to make it worse, the park was built right next to a neighborhood, causing multiple complaints from city locals for various reasons like noise and environment. Reason number 3, which is the one I find the most surprising, was the lack of wide appeal. As big as Sanrio was growing, their image was still associated with young girls. Nowadays, if you're over the age of 20 and like these sort of things, then very few people will bat an eye. But in the 90s, if you were an adult and liked these things, you were literally an enemy of Christ. And also around this time, the company's character lineup was starting to get a lot more bloated, which means less focus on Hello Kitty, which means less public interest in the company, and less interest in the park. Sure, it was still popular with girls, including those in the high school age, but the park was failing to attract anyone outside the demographic of young girls and families. In fact, 30% of the attendance was coming from kids under the age of 3 who received free admission. You also gotta remember that Tokyo Disneyland was still a pretty young park around this time with a much more recognizable name attached to it, and Sanrio just couldn't compete. But the biggest blow to the park was that it opened at the worst time possible. On the year of Puroland's opening, during the after effects of the global recession, Japan's asset price bubble popped, which sent the country's economy spiraling. This resulted in consumers losing confidence as, with the amount of loans they were facing, they became reluctant to spend any money on things that aren't essential, especially a theme park. As a result, Sanrio Puroland opened to a 1.5 billion yen account deficit. The company would try and reduce the pain by reducing staff and showing the park's hours, like after 5 PM nobody would show up even when it closed at 11, but for the next 2 decades, the park would operate at a loss not just for itself, but the entirety of Sanrio, with even their shareholders labeling it as a burden to the company. Though it was not the only stab in the wound, as just mere months after the opening of Puroland, another layer of misery was on its way from the other side of the country.
弾ける笑顔、楽しさあふれるエンターテインメントの連続。ここは愛と夢、優しい気持ちに会える国、ハーモニーランド。毎日上演される数々のライブショーが、楽しさいっぱいのアトラクションの数々が、きっと素敵な一日をみんなにプレゼントしてくれることでしょう。さあ、あなたも感動を見つけにハーモニーランドへご家族揃って出かけてみませんか？
Apparently, Sanrio had so much faith in Puroland that they once again collaborated with Landmark to develop another park entirely located in Hiji, near the Oita Prefecture, named Sanrio Harmonyland, while Puroland was still in the works. But unlike that park, this would be entirely outdoors, leaving room for bigger rides that wouldn't work in an indoor park, depending on the weather. As expected, the layout and design of the park is vastly different from Puroland, though its main architecture still partially resembles that of a mystical village. Partially. Upon entering, you're greeted into Harmony Village, which is the main hub for shops and food as well as hosting parades. Adjacent to it is a walk-through flower garden named Harmony Garden, and there's Harmony Park, with the carousel in the center, and right behind it is the park's central icon/stage named Harmony Castle, which hosts live entertainment on the outside, and on the inside is the theater playing cartoons. You can also take the Harmony train as a guide around the park accompanied by some nice scenery. There's also the Harmony floor, the Harmony table, the Harmony toilet, the Harmony U, the Harmony baby, the Harmony government, the Harmony political party, the Harmony global elite. They also clone to the theater shows from Puroland like the Fairyland Nature Show and the Dream Time Machine, which at one point play a Godzilla film. Cause when I think of Hello Kitty, I also think of this. On the lower level is Carnival Square with a festival stage that is separated by water and a very pretty surrounding area. But the main attraction was, of course, another boat ride. The fantastic boat ride, if you may. While the Puros are kept as the main characters of the attraction, the new storyline centers around them traveling by boat to Oita to put on a festival with their magic, and are helped by the local habitat. The habitat they trampled to build this park. Sanrio Harmonyland opened to the public on April 26, 1991, and wasn't much different either. Some of Puroland's major issues, like appeal on the country's economy, hit the second park pretty hard to where even its potential benefits couldn't save its woes. And there were benefits. As mentioned, the park is located within the Oita Prefecture, which is most known for its hot springs. It's somewhere where people actually, well, go to. In fact, the prefecture's government owns 51% of the park, while Sanrio owns the remaining 49%, meaning that all those cute little robots are secretly cameras used to spy on you so AI data centers can use your face. Sorry. There are also a lot more rides in Harmonyland than Puroland. Well, only 2 more. Likely because there wasn't much else to do. On July 21st, 1993, over 2 years after opening, a new area located by Harmony Park opened under the name Whitebird Square, which features a Ferris wheel, Dumbo knockoff, go-karts, pirate ship, and a roller coaster, plus some boardwalk games. So basically a carnival that's cheaper than early Paradise Pier. But they have burritos. For a bit. But sadly, it wasn't enough to heal the wound. There's not much data on how the park performed in its first years, though it cost $330 million to build, nearly half of Puroland's budget. But we can infer that things didn't start out great for this park based on before mentioned circumstances. TLDR, none of these parks were bad, in fact design-wise they're fantastic, but they failed mostly because they opened at the worst time for a Sanrio company, and from 1992 and 94, both parks operated at a loss of 5 billion yen. But Shintaro Tsuji wasn't so willing to give up just yet. The company poured a fuckload of money into these giant monstrosities, and tossing them out after being open for not too long would be a waste. So their solution was to simply put a band-aid on and hope everything would get better from there. And did they succeed? Well, kinda. In November 1999 and early 2000 respectively, both Puroland and Harmonyland rethemed their boat rides to a current iteration, the Sanrio character boat ride. The Puros were completely taken out and replaced with Sanrio's now iconic lineup. The new storyline centers around the characters preparing for a party being thrown by Hello Kitty, where I assume she's getting married? While this seems just like some ordinary retheme, this would set in stone the direction these parks would take moving forward, making it more Sanrio, if you may. Where have I heard something like that before? After the opening of these rides, both parks would begin to phase out the Puros and the original fantasy theming altogether, though nowadays some remnants are still left behind aside from the architecture. One of the more notable examples is the clock above the escalators in Puroland, where TikTok, along with a moose and bear, appear upon both the park's opening and closing to sing a little tune. Not only did they used to show up a lot more frequently, but they also used to have limited but decent movement, though nowadays, because the guest maintenance doesn't even bother, they are completely frozen in time. Literally. And it makes these cute mini shows kinda unsettling. But hey, you can still watch the bear take a shit in one of the bathrooms. On July 20th, 2013, the area that housed the long-closed Dream Time Machine was repurposed into Sanrio Town, with two of the most notable additions being the walkthrough of Lady K's house. She's rich and British, it checks out. And holy crap, another ride, the My Melody Road Drive. In it, you board a vehicle manufactured by a car company created by My Melody's just as popular girlfriend. Sorry, couldn't contain myself. Rival, Kuromi, where you travel through the titular character's life story, including the moment she was born, by placing her in front of the fucking road, hello?
You know, I never really liked that little baby Melody.
And you can also get your picture taken by this Kuromi bird everywhere you go because she's the government. The opening of Sanrio Town brought a much needed attendance boost, with the park bringing 1.15 million visitors in 2013, then 1.26 million the next year, a 106% increase. They also expanded upon their seasonal offerings to reach older demographics as well, including horror. And I don't mean on Halloween, I mean in the middle of summer. Starting the summer of 2015, Puroland has collaborated with the Japanese haunted house company, Obaken, to bring to life a Halloween Horror Nights-esque event every June/July, and it's as bad as it sounds.
サンリオキャラクターもね、グロテスクに安全地帯っていうのを数を数えるらしい。
And the craziest part is that Sanrio's not all concerned about what this could potentially do to their brand image. Yes, it's an after-hours event for adults, but the very sight of real-looking zombies and ghosts in the park for little girls is... oh my lord. I mean, Retsuko makes regular appearances at the park completely sane-washed, so it doesn't surprise me too much. I just wanted an excuse to bring this up because I find this both wild and kind of funny. Also, while I'm at with the character shows, one time they did one with Blue's Clues. Still better than Blue's Room. The same year, the park introduced the Miracle Gift Parade, which brought another much needed attendance boost. Then from 2017 to 19, the park was finally making a profit. And from here, it seems like things were going, the world got sick, sucks to be you. Meanwhile in Harmonyland, very little has moved. They painted over the rides to be more Hello Kitty while also adding brand new ones, and somewhere in the 2000s, the water fountain in Harmony Village was completely removed and replaced with a new stage. Cause yes, the one thing missing from a Sanrio park is a live show. Then in 2015, it was updated with screens and entire canopy surrounding it, and now it just looks hideous. Shade must be nice though. And this brings us to today. Puroland and Harmonyland bring in millions of visitors each year from both locals and foreign tourists, and have been named among some of the best theme parks in Japan. Okay, only one of them is. Like with Tokyo Disney and Universal. I mean, sounds like a win, right?
Too bad. You suck!
Even though everything looks just fine on the outside, both of the parks continue to operate at a loss, especially losing 3,000 yen per visitor. As of 2023. COVID no doubt pushed the parks back, but it might also have something to do with Sanrio's unwillingness to expand and drawing less attention. The parks are still popular, but it's not enough to bring in any more money. Harmonyland especially. There have not been any major additions to the park since 2015, and to this day it's considered by many to be that park. You know what I'm talking about. However, that is likely about to change. In December of 2025, it was announced that Sanrio would be investing 10 billion yen to convert Harmonyland into a full-blown resort, including a hotel and installing a giant canopy over the entire park. Hopefully it means they're gonna get rid of this beast, but I'm not holding my breath. It's estimated that this will take an entire decade to get this project complete, which by then I hope our environment is stable and I'm not living in Ohio anymore. I hope. And now here comes the miscellaneous section. This shouldn't come as a surprise considering how big Sanrio is nowadays, but the company has expanded their theme park presence outside of Japan over the past decade. Gonna go through this as brief as I can because details are kinda sparse in certain areas, so... Miscellaneous. On November 20th, 2014, a Hello Kitty theme park opened in Anji, China, marking it as the first Sanrio theme park outside Japan. The park was designed by another American design firm, THG Creative, who also worked with Universal Theme Parks, who knew? And architecture-wise, it looks nice. It seems to blend the vibes of Pure and Homeland with a bit of Chinese culture into it, and they work together very well. Though, that's all I can say concerning little to no fudge nor furs of the park are out there. And from what I'm hearing, at least upon initial opening, the experience itself is kinda terrible, and for a park that costed 283 million US currency to build, that's no good. Speaking of no good, the United States. In 2015, Sanrio entered a partnership with Universal to bring their iconic feline and her friends into their parks. And the first move in this partnership was the retheming of the I Love Lucy tribute in Orlando into the Hello Kitty store, which includes some very elaborate theming and a meet and greet with Kitty herself. There's also a Sanrio shopping cafe that recently opened in City Walk in Hollywood, replacing the bankrupt Francesca's, and a chicken place named Chick Chick Chicken that only lasted 2 years. Though the biggest Universal presence is, shockingly, in Japan. Of course, you've got the usual merch, meet and greets, and live shows, but there's also an entire Hello Kitty section of Universal Wonderland, the park's Kitty area, which replaced the Wicked area, which replaced the Wild Wild West Stunt Show area. They just closed the Sesame Street section, leaving only Sanrio and Peanuts, so while the subzones are still alive, it puts the future of the entire area into question. Just God, don't let Sesame Street be replaced with a power expansion. They've already had it rough enough with bigots over here. It didn't get any better in Orlando, as by the 2020s, the Hello Kitty shop was slowly being phased out, with the theming being removed and the shelves being stocked with their IP, including the addition of a Funko and Loungefly section. Cause when I think of Hello Kitty, I think of being my wallet to death. Ultimately, the store closed in September 2024, along with the short-lived Universe store, and again, I guess as fate would have it, since the cute mouthless cat replaced the musical about misunderstood witch fighting tyranny in Japan, the complete opposite happened as the stores were replaced by the Wicked Experience to promote the movie based on the musical of the same name. And no, you will not be told if it's green. And lastly, there's been a Hello Kitty park in Hainan, which is in southern China, in development for God knows how long, and was scheduled to open in 2024, but from what I'm hearing, nothing has happened. Though late last year, the project was confirmed to still be alive, so that's good news, right? Right? You see, the joke is that there's probably other stuff I'm missing, but I'm just too tired. Sanrio's theme park journey has been an interesting yet excruciating one. Most of these parks have solid execution and a shot to make its place in the industry, but what has really bogged Sanrio down is how unlucky they've been. Every ounce of creativity and brilliance has been met with piss poor results, and while I can't say they're in bad shape, aside from the Anji park, it makes their current direction kinda tragic in a sense. The original iterations of Puroland and Harmonyland had such a unique identity and vibe to them. They felt like worlds beyond what Sanrio is usually known for, and to this day they're still fine experiences, but they've kind of devolved from walking into a mystical fantasy to a brand glorification. I'd like to visit these parks someday, but I'd love to truly experience both Puroland and Harmonyland in their heydays, mostly Puroland. It's unknown where Sanrio is going to go from here in the theme park business, because after spending years and years of money on something that doesn't even earn you a dime, it just leaves you wondering. But it doesn't look like they're gonna be stopping anytime soon. Where also the Disney adult-like YouTubers gonna go anyway. Good luck with the future, Sanrio. You're gonna need it. No, seriously, if you're gonna do shit like this, good fucking luck.